Seeing that it is now 7 o'clock, I am calling to order this March 10th Planning and Development Committee meeting. Would you please call the roll?
St.Charles.
Here.
Folks.
Here.
Bongard.
Here.
Muntz. Here. Lencioni.
Yes.
Gem.
Here.
Trilla.
Here.
Wirball.
Here.
Bessner.
Here.
Weber.
Here. Thank you very much. And with that, moving to the one item we have on the motion.
Make a motion.
Moved by Munn, second by Gem. Please call the roll.
Bongard.
Yes.
Muntz.
Yes.
Gem.
Yes.
Petrilla.
Yes.
Wirball.
Yes.
Bessner.
Yes.
Weber.
Yes.
St.Charles.
Yes.
Folks.
Yes. Excellent, thank you. The next three are all pertaining to the same topic. Derek, take it away. This is going to be a big meeting for you, Derek.
Okay. I think I'll be your sole presenter tonight. So starting out, I've got 3 items that are all pertaining to outdoor dining. So just to put them simply put, one, this is just the layout for summer 2025. Then we have some modifications of the design standards, and then a consideration to increase the fees. I think the way I'd like to tackle this, I will present each one individually, and then I'll answer any questions there are, but then we'll vote for all of them at the very end. Sound good?
Any objections? Sounds good. Thanks, Derek.
Sounds good. So outdoor dining 2025, this goes to the layout. The first thing that I do need to mention, though, is something that City Council had already reviewed last year, and this would be putting the opening in the barrier wall that is kind of, the photo that you see on the left-hand side here, that is looking western. This is kind of between Giamia and McNally's. We did have a discussion about a year ago about removing that middle part of that wall so that pedestrians could walk straight through the middle of it, and that is represented in the green line in the photo, but then also on the right-hand side with the green line going right through the plaza there. So that is kind of a requirement for where we ended up with the outdoor dining for this year. It does increase pedestrian flow through the plaza, but it also does create additional room for outdoor dining. Just to start out, I am going to go through all of the outdoor dining spaces individually by restaurant, but this plan does increase the outdoor dining space from about 8,000 to just over 9,000, so it does increase just a little over 1,000 square feet in total. Kind of knocking off the easy ones first, Alta Brewing, La Mesa, and La Zazas. They're all staying the same as last year. So there are no changes with those. I do have the square footages and the seats that they had last year, all kind of being in that about 84 as an average, 84 seats. The 2 changes, the first one would be McNally's. And if you do look at the site plan on the right-hand side, the area that has the stripes, that is the increased square footage that would be going to those restaurants. So for McNally's, this would almost be doubling their total square footage. It's not an ideal shape, so it doesn't quite double the seating, but in square footage, it nearly doubles it, going from about 52 seats to 84 seats is the estimate. And then below that, Giamia, they would be increasing their square footage from 950 square feet to 1,200 square feet. Clearly, Giamia has the fewest amount. Last year, they were only able to put about 40 seats. We estimate that this would add about 60 seats. Or sorry, not add 60 seats. This would get them to about 60 seats. So they are kind of getting the short end of the stick, but unfortunately, we just don't have anywhere else to put them. So with that, I can take questions. The only thing that I'll say is 9,000 square feet. That is quite a bit of space of outdoor dining. This effectively doubles the dining area for some of these restaurants, so it is quite large, but it is also the biggest driver, I think, to our First Street Plaza. People come here every night for the outdoor dining. Of course, we do have some new programming, SCC Live twice a week. We just brought back On Wine Wednesdays this summer, but it is outdoor dining, honestly, that is going to bring people there throughout the week. So with that, I can take any questions.
Questions? Alderperson St.Charles.
Derek, so if I'm looking at this correctly, the arch, which of course I support that, it looks like so from McNally's and Giamia, will there be a little bit of where the arch comes straight down, or the the fences going to be like right in line with the edge of the arch, or will there be a little bit of space?
Yeah.
It looks like there may be, but.
Yeah, so you see that there's these poles right there. The idea would be to remove the middle one as well as the concrete and the stairs. In between there, that's about 9 feet, and I would anticipate the fencing kind of being in line with those two poles, the one to the left and the one to the right.
So, I'm sorry. So they're essentially, when you walk into the arch, I mean, 9 feet, I know that you're going to have people dining like right beside you.
Yeah, you will, as you walk through there. I mean, it'll be 9 feet wide, but you will be able to look over and see people dining.
I'm fine with the layout. I don't have an issue with it. 2 questions. The ADA ramp, are we going to put something permanent in there this year, or are we going to go back to the temporary ramp?
Right now, we do have the temporary ramp that is, we think meets the ADA standards. We did not put that into the budget for this year as of yet to have that installed this year.
Why not?
And that was something that was removed from the budget.
Okay. And then the second thing is, we're still going to have public seating, tables, umbrellas, and all that stuff out there like last year?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Alderperson Weber.
Thank you, Chairman. From a safety perspective, when they remove that middle wall there, there's a 9-foot space there.
Yes.
Is there going to be like a bollard like farther out so that somebody couldn't drive straight through if they wanted to, do something crazy?
There is not a permanent bollard there right now. However, I believe there was actually a temporary bollard that was put out there. Like it was kind of like something that someone or 2 people could probably move. So we can look into that.
The craziness that's going on, I feel like there should be
something there.
Yeah.
Okay. We can certainly get one of those temporary ones,
Okay.
I think, so.
I'm curious, as opposed to that, just thinking out loud, you're like, well, safe is better, but I'm just curious, would there always be a bollard if we don't have a curb cut? Is that, I mean, sometimes you're trying to keep people safe, but you're going to an extent where you're like, that's not usually like how it's done because of the curb. I'm just curious before we put one out to get a little report back and understand what's normal safety precautions.
Yeah, we can definitely do more research on that.
Thank you. Any other questions? No. Do you want to move on to the next?
Yeah. Next would be modifications to the design standards. So, of course, last year was the first year of the new plaza. So we did learn a few things, and some of the things that the restaurants did, we wanted to kind of regulate a little bit more. So this is just a series of things that we would add to the ordinance. So allow planners, we do allow planners. Last year we didn't specifically allow them, now they're specifically allowed. But we do call out that we do not want the contents of those planners dumped in our landscaping beds, which is something that did occur last year. Sofas, La Mesa last year did utilize sofas in their outdoor dining area. It's not something that we said was prohibited, but we didn't allow it. So this specifically says that is allowable. But it is limited to 12 seats. Same thing with smokeless or artificial fire pits. This will be covered in my next item, deposit to cover damage to the plaza, but we are proposing that the businesses deposit $2,000 at the beginning of the outdoor dining area, or outdoor dining season. So if there is damage to the plaza, the city really doesn't want to be the ones that have to go and correct it. But if the restaurant isn't responsive to that, we want the ability to pay for whatever damage is done to be repaired. Hopefully it's more of something that we can hold to the restaurants for them to just do it themselves rather than us have to utilizing it. Good question?
We'll start with Bondard.
Well, sorry. Let me just finish the different ones. I just saw them.
2 more bullet points. We can hold our questions till
not allowing any use of landscaping beds, specifically $5 fine for removing or trimming any vegetation, which is something that occurred last year. And then additional lighting is permitted. However, we want it to be powered by private outlets. There was some string lighting that was plugged into private or to public outlets, and we think that should be done privately. All right.
We're done now?
Yes.
Okay, we'll start with Bondard, then come back.
How much damage did we incur? And what type?
There was no damage that occurred that was not eventually cleaned up by the restaurants, but there was some rust stains that was put onto the plaza, and we did ask for that to be cleaned up, and it was eventually cleaned up this February, but it took a little bit longer than we would have
From
liked.
all of the places, or just
One specifically.
one specific? Okay.
Go ahead, Rubel.
Do we know who was trimming the trees? Did you have that conversation with the business or businesses? And do they know the process now if they have a request? Because I found that quite offensive to go in there and take those massive branches off the trees, so if we
Yes,
have
yes, that conversation has been had, but we do want to have a mechanism in there in case it does happen again.
Okay, sorry, thanks.
Yeah, for the last bullet point, the additional lighting, that's not just for First Street, correct? Is that for anybody who has outdoor dining?
That is something that I think would apply to everyone.
Everybody?
This is specifically for First Street, but honestly, I think that is something that should be
Applied across citywide?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Back to the question about the damage, were the rust stains, was that as a result of them not following the rules about the types of furniture, or was that?
Yeah, you are supposed to use rubber bottoms on the bottom of a lot of your tables and chairs, and that was something that was not happening and was noted, but nothing was done about it in a timely manner anyway.
Okay, so easily mitigated for
Yes,
the future.
but luckily it was cleaned, but thankfully it didn't appear to be permanent damage. So.
Okay, thank you.
Just a follow-up question. The additional lighting is permitted while powered by a private outlet. Great. I think it's festive. Who's going to enforce it when they see it's plugged into a city outlet? Are you going to, who's enforcing it?
More than likely it will be me, but we do have code enforcement officers too. So.
Okay. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
A lot of nights on the plaza.
I have a question, and I mean, and now that this just sounds like the joys of being a landlord. But with that, there was a little bit of, we're talking about getting deposits. Is there any way for the first year with a deposit that we can do any kind of a tiered deposit where we allow them to, fund their deposit through operations, like, so we could have a tiered structure instead of requiring it up front?
I'm sorry,
can you? Sense? So we're asking for a deposit. We never have in the past. So if somebody says, if they ask, be like, hey, can I pay in installments? Is that a thing that could be possible? And that way you get to balance revenues against the payment.
Yeah, I mean,
or is that
if that's something that City Council would like to do, but I mean, if there's damage to the plaza, there could be something that costs that amount, and if we don't have those funds deposited, then we may not have the resources to remediate it.
No, I definitely understand that, but we didn't have the resources last year either. I'm just thinking because it's a transition, or if somebody else came in, I mean, maybe we can just, good neighbor policy that if there was an issue, somebody could request it, and we don't have to structure it. Just asking.
Okay.
Other comments?
Alderman Bessner has a question.
Go ahead, Ed.
Thank you, Chairman. I just, I was talking to somebody on the east side for a restaurant. They're actually just filling out an application now. Do these same rules apply to them?
No, I think I know the case that you are referring to, and that would be private property.
Okay.
So there would be some code that would apply to them, as it would everyone, but not specifically these items.
And they would have a different type of deposit, or would it be $2,000 or just?
Well, if it's private property, then there actually is not a fee associated with it.
Okay.
So they would not be paying.
Gotcha.
Right.
Okay, I had a couple questions regarding your fees, but I'll wait till you get.
Any questions pertaining to what's been proposed so far? Okay, Derek, back to you.
Okay. Moving on to the last item, which is consideration to increase the permit fees. So this was something that was discussed last year. I think there was some direction from City Council that they would like to see this increase this year. That last year was maybe being a little bit more gentle with what the fees were because of the plaza construction from 2023. Just a reminder, we do need to continue to do 2 100-day permits, unfortunately, and this is a result of us having bonds that were issued inside the TIF district there. So there's no way around that, unfortunately. It complicates just everyone's understanding a little bit. So just going through a little bit of history in the collection. So 2023, this was going back, and actually before 2023, we were charging 50 cents per square foot, which was honestly a minimal amount. I'm sorry I didn't include this in my memo, but in 2023 we actually did waive those fees because of the disruption with the plaza construction. So we would have generated a little over $7,000, but those fees were waived. In 2024, we did switch to the per seat fee calculation, and we did come up with the number of $20 per seat, and that would be per 100-day period. So for one seat for the whole summer, you would pay $40. What we did collect was about a little over $15,000 last year, so effectively doubling it. We also instituted an application fee, which was for the entire summer $250 per restaurant, so got almost $17,000 last year. For proposed fees for 2025, one, staff is looking for that $2,000 deposit that would be integrated into this. It's just a deposit. They wouldn't be allowed to do the outdoor dining until that was done, and then afterwards, October 31st, they would have a right to get those funds back. And then looking at potential cost increases, we did start with the $20, just keeping everything the same. We would generate still about almost $16,000 this year, a little bit different because we're increasing the number of seats. On the far right of my table there, I did also include, just because people look at this in different ways, but I did include a full year permit square foot equivalent. So a lot of the businesses on First Street, if you're leasing, you are paying the highest rent in St. Charles. Could be somewhere around $35 a square foot. So as a perspective, what we're charging right now would be about $3.12. And that is the full year equivalent. Keep in mind that this is only for 200 days. And essentially running all those numbers out, if we were to charge $25, $30, or $35, the second column is what the city would collect in total, and then the full year equivalent per square foot, which is an estimate. And then on the next page, and I had this in the memo, basically looking at what the fees impact would be per business. I know some people like to think of this, well, how much would they be paying per day? You can kind of conceptualize how much does a restaurant make per day, and this would be what we'd be charging for outdoor dining per day, per month, and then kind of adding them all up, including the deposit. We did get an email from Alter Brewing. This did come in just this afternoon, and he would like me to share that with the council, and it is specific to the outdoor dining fees. I did give the committee a copy of the email, and I'll just kind of run through it quickly. It does kind of get to some of the sentiment of the other restaurants that I did speak to, but number one, 2024 revenue did not offset the losses during plaza construction. Hospitality operators are struggling right now with labor costs and inflationary pressures, which is absolutely true, but it's also true for all restaurants right now, or all hospitality operators. The city of St. Charles 2% tax on sales of alcoholic beverages is among one of the highest. I have not had a chance to do any type of research on that. The fee raises some concerns, just because putting down $2,000, that's revenue, that's money that can't be used, and it does hit them at a period when they're low on cash because they're coming off their slow season. And with that, I can take any questions.
Go ahead, Alderman Weber.
Thank you, Chairman Lencioni. For this year, because of the disruption with the plaza last year, I'm good with keeping it at $20. Obviously, we're asking them to give the $2,000 deposit, and now there's an application fee as well. So I'm good with it staying at 20 for this season. Thank you.
Banger.
So with a deposit of $2,000, do we have to do the $250 application fee, since we know, we know who these businesses are, the repeats? Is that really beneficial?
I mean, I think the intent of the application fee is that we charge for a lot of our applications at the city, and there is staff time that is put into it, and I think it's kind of the way of offsetting our staff time that we put into processing those is the intent.
St.Charles?
Yeah, I agree with Steve. I mean, I'll support 20 as a consideration. And then on a side note, do you, this money, I mean, is the $2,000 to go back, of course, to them afterwards, as long as, just like if you rent an apartment or what have you. But what about, in the meantime, what we generate revenue, I mean, that's going to be, that goes toward maintenance of the plaza. I mean,
yeah, that is something
not
that
codified,
staff
but
has discussed, is that what is generated from these fees can be reinvested into the plaza.
is that just verbal, or are we gonna, should we codify that?
I mean, we could, I think we'll have to talk to finance about the best way to do that, but we could create a fund where those dollars are put into a specific fund.
I think just having, we did that with the sales tax increase that it went to roads, and people were happy, were pleased with that because we had a definitive route for that cash. So I would support that. We don't have to do it today, but I think that would be a good consideration. So.
Okay.
I'm not crazy about leaving it at $20. I'd like to go to 25. I think it's a reasonable increase. What I would like to see is the money that's collected go towards some sort of downtown security or community service officer to really oversee the parking garages, just the downtown area, especially over the weekends when we have a lot of shenanigans going on in that parking deck. So I don't think we need a lot of maintenance right now. It's a brand new plaza, so I'm not sure down the road, but I think for me, I would like to see that money get codified and go to securing, to make sure it's safe for people parking in the deck. Obviously, we've heard complaints about cars drifting in there and kids hanging out and stuff like that. So I prefer $25. That's kind of where I'm at. I think that's reasonable, but that's it.
I'm curious, because there's been a lot of talk, and I think very well-focused talk, on making sure that with public assets that we're charging a market rate. Based on what you found, can you discuss what you believe is market and how you kind of arrived to what you've got here?
Yeah, so this doesn't really get to market rate, but we did actually last fall do some research on other communities and what they were charging, and they're all over the place. People charging for parking spaces, which is really, for outdoor dining, which is really apples to oranges. So to be perfectly honest, we were in that range of what other municipalities are doing. To me, maybe because I'm in the real estate world, I kind of look at the far right column and I look at the per square foot of an equivalent. To me, I think that the $25 honestly puts us a little bit closer into what I think is the market rate. But that being said, I understand that, the city is a big benefactor to outdoor dining in the downtown. People come to our downtown, as I said, for outdoor dining. It's a big driver, and when they eat at our restaurants, we get more sales tax. So
that's very thoughtful. The last thing that I have to add is just, what we're going to do with these funds. We can think about earmarking, but we are right now in a search for a new police chief, and I would like to see the police chief ask us for funds to help once he has his hands around exactly what policing looks like. That's everything that I have. That's all three of them. Derek, anything else?
Alderman Bessner does have another question.
Okay, thank you. Ed, go ahead.
Thank you. My question, I don't want to be repetitive here, but going back to the fee structure, Derek, towards the end, I think Chairman Lencioni asked the question, you were stating we're getting closer to $25 range. I have no problems to raise these fees if we're not in a realistic range and we're short selling ourselves. I'll leave it at that. I'll go with how this body goes on it. At the same time, kind of picking up points off of committee members Weber and Werball, these funds possibly could go just towards solidifying ADA ramp to the structure it's supposed to be, and to put some dollards up, or a dollar up, where we're going to have the hole in the back part of the plaza. Now, if that project's way out of whack and these won't cover it, then that's where I think it might be important to see where we should be, so that we can get that money to either go there or as somebody else suggested towards the hiring of the police chief, wherever, but we should have an earmark for it. But I would think, outside of routine maintenance, that, this could or should, in my opinion, go back towards a permanent ADA ramp and or the dollar on the back of the west part of the plaza. That's it, sorry.
Okay. No,
Thank you. I appreciate it, Alderperson Besser. Are there any other comments, or should we go back to the top and address the items one by one, starting with 4B?
So I'll make a motion to approve item 4B.
Okay, I have a motion by
Second.
Weber,
Second.
second by Gem. Please call the roll.
Unger,
Yes.
Munch,
Yes.
Gem,
Yes.
Petrilla,
Yes.
Wirball,
Yes.
Festner,
Yes, sorry, yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Kulturitis.
Yes.
Vogt.
Yes.
Excellent. And just for the record, because we handled these all together, that was 4B, recommendation to approve a resolution for outdoor cafe layout for the First Street Plaza for summer 2025. Did anybody feel like they didn't understand what they were voting on or considering? Okay, thank you. No comments, thereby understood to be that. So now I'm looking for a motion for recommendation to approve amending Title 12 General Provisions, Section 04.102 outdoor cafes and food carts in public places.
Move for approval.
Second.
Hang on, where was my motion? Wirball, and a second, Petrella. Thank you. Call the roll?
Unger,
Yes.
Munch,
Yes.
Gem,
Yes.
Petrilla,
Yes.
Wirball,
Yes.
Festner,
Yes,
Weber,
Yes.
Kulturitis.
Yes.
Vogt.
Yes.
That passes as well. And then the last one, for D, an ordinance amending Title 12, Street Sidewalks, Public Spaces, and Special Events, Section 12.04.102 outdoor cafes and food carts in public places, to increase two permit fees for the use of First Street Plaza for outdoor dining. We're looking for guidance on that one, so a motion should be specific.
I'll make a motion for 4D at $20 per seat with the $2,000 deposit and the $250 application fee.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second for, just to restate, $20 per seat fee, the $2,000
Deposit.
down payment, the security deposit, thank you, and the full as proposed application fee. Any discussion on that?
Well, question I have to follow up your point, Chairman Lynch. Is there any way, since they apply for 100-day permits, to maybe stagger the security deposit to 1,000 and 1,000? Just a thought.
that's possible. I mean, if that's something that you guys would like us to entertain.
Right. If it stays at 2,000 as we are recommending, it's just how you collect it then would be the mechanics, correct?
Just as a consideration, if we do that, it just does take more staff time to make sure we're actually collecting that fee and going after, in the event that somebody does not pay and then there is damage, we're just in a little bit of that predicament.
Okay.
And after a chance to think about, you know, what Derek presented to is nobody has really requested that. We just made note on pricing and the rest, so let's not overwork it. But I don't see any other comments, so with that, let's call the roll.
Ungar?
Yes.
Muntz?
Yes.
Gem?
Yes.
Petrilla?
Yes.
Wirball?
Yes.
Festner?
Yes.
Weber?
Yes.
Sulkaitis?
Yes.
Vogt.
Yes.
That passes. That is everything having to do with outdoor dining. So we are moving on to 4E, Pheasant Run TIF update, this presentation only.
Yes.
Yeah, so this will roll into our last item, which is the RDA for the Pheasant Run Industrial. But we did think, given that this was on the agenda, it may be a good opportunity to just give the committee or city council an update on the Pheasant Run TIF district as a whole. So I have the most updated aerial map up here, and I'll just kind of run through the properties and where we're at with each one. So, of course, we have the resort property, which is 33 acres. The site has been cleared. I think it's important to note that this did fall into receivership. The receiver did pay somewhere around $4.3 million, and that is money that the city did not have to spend, which for a while when we were putting in the TIF, we thought that was something that we were going to have to contribute to get it down. So I think that is a big win. As far as the future of this site, I do think that this is something that will be very developable. There is still some work on the property that needs to be done, some cleanup, but depending on what development comes in, there could be some TIF dollars that are used for this development, and that may be necessary. But honestly, we're in much better shape than where we were just 2 years ago with this. It is still technically in receivership, but there is a lot of activity on the site with potential buyers and brokers, and getting more and more optimistic that we'll have a new owner this year. Moving down to the south and on the left-hand side of the screen, Building D. This is approximately 170,000 square foot industrial building. It is fully occupied by Cross Distribution, and this is essentially a logistics company. I don't have an exact employee count right now, but estimating it's probably around 50 employees just based off of experience in the industry. But happy to have this building fully occupied. Building C, which is 216,000 square feet, this is also fully occupied by SAI Advanced Power Solutions, and very excited about this because this is manufacturing. To be perfectly honest, when this project came forward, I thought that there was a strong likelihood that this would be a warehouse or a logistics company. So to get a manufacturer in here, which is great. Did get into the facility something about maybe 6 months ago or so. They had 70 employees then, and they were just kind of ramping up. Over the next 18 months, they will get to full capacity, and they're anticipating 250 jobs. And with them being manufacturing jobs, those will be very, very good paying jobs. So happy to have them in St. Charles and here for the part of the community for a long time. To the right of that, we have Building B, which is essentially complete. It's not fully complete, but it's 95% there. This is the biggest building to be built yet, 300,000 square feet, nearing completion. On the right-hand side there, the little photo, that is a photo that I did find online of an aerial of that building. You can see that it is nearing completion. So there are no tenants that have been announced at this building yet, but hopefully this year we're getting to that point where it's almost done, and hopefully we get a tenant in there shortly. And then to finish off the industrial portion, the proposed Building A, this would be almost 450,000 square feet. This isn't for permit yet. I think there's been some grading that's been accomplished on the site, but it isn't for permit, and I think the developer would like to start construction of this building this year. So that kind of wraps up the industrial, and of course I'll go into a little bit more detail when we get to the next item. But to finish off going through the site plan, the last portion is the car dealerships we have up there. The Honda, which opened in 2023, and then we have the Kia that opened in 2024. Of course, we know that our car dealers may not be the most favorite use in our community, but they do bring in a tremendous amount of sales tax for the city. Looking at the numbers from 2024, we generated over $5 million just in sales tax from our car dealerships. In both of these properties, they did not receive any TIF funding. They did receive sales tax rebates, and luckily, a little too early to tell on the Kia, but the Honda is performing very, very well when it comes to the sales tax. So happy for that. Staying on the TIF district just for a moment, this is just a slide, but I did want to share kind of the financial impact that the TIF district has had so far. Actually already in the TIF district, we have about $328,000, which is pretty significant since that actually happened not from last year, but the year before. And that is funds that were put in there with very minimal development at that time. Projected new TIF increments from last year that is payable this year, so it's not something that the city has yet, but when we do get this, when people pay their taxes this year and it comes to the city, we're estimating it to be in total a little over $1 million. I did break that down a little bit further on the chart on the right. The top buildings are the industrial buildings, so next year we're anticipating $615,000 just from the industrial buildings. Keep in mind that only 2 of those, you see building D and C, they have increment in there, but those are also just partial increment because these buildings were not fully constructed last year. So those numbers will go way up. Building B, even though it's complete, it hasn't been assessed at all. It's still assessed as land, and then building A is still land, of course. And then at the bottom, you can also see the numbers of what is projected for the property taxes that will go into the TIF district from the frontage. It looks like just because of the activity, the EAVs on all the parcels are going up. And I know with our car dealerships, we always talk about the sales tax that is generated, but if you look at the Honda, which was fully assessed, we're anticipating it to be about $230,000 just from property taxes, and that will go into the TIF. With that, I'm ready to move on to the RDA unless...
Any questions about anything that's been presented?
Yeah, when the buildings are at completion, how quickly were tenants found or interested in once these places were completed? Did you have a hard time filling them, medium? How'd it go?
I think there was plenty of demand for these buildings, the first 2 especially right after COVID. Honestly, logistics was something that became very popular with e-commerce and things like that. Building those buildings were pretty easy. I think, and we'll kind of get into this, but I think the hardest part about filling the 2 buildings that are completed was getting our electric equipment in on time. That seemed to delay where tenants didn't know when they could actually move into the building, but as soon as that was figured out, these buildings were leased pretty quickly. I would think, based on the market, that building B should be leased fairly quickly, but from 2 years ago, I think the market is slowing down a little bit with these. So,
thank you.
Thanks, Trevor. Just one quick comment. You had mentioned that we don't love car dealerships. I want to put on the record that we do love. We love car dealerships. We love you all. Thank you.
With that, you go ahead and move forward.
Sure. So this gets into the redevelopment agreement for the Pheasant Run Industrial Development Project. So just to start with a little bit of a history lesson, so this starts back in 2021. Greco de Rosa had approached the city about doing the industrial project on the back golf course. By March of 2022, a little bit more due diligence had been done. There was a discussion at the city council meeting, and a TIF inducement resolution was passed. This is a resolution that just basically formally states that the city is interested in a TIF district. It doesn't commit us to a TIF district, but it is essentially the Kickstarter for it. Accompanied with that resolution was also an incentive application that was put forward by Greco de Rosa. So as they had done a little bit more of their due diligence, they learned that the electric service to the site was under capacity, which makes somewhat sense just because this was formerly a golf course, not a lot of need for power, and now you're putting over 1 million square feet of industrial in there. So should note that their financial ask at that time, and it was an estimate, really didn't know what it would be, but the ballpark that was thrown out there was $11.5 million. That's what was included as part of the executive summary for this. In June of 2022, City Council approved an electric utility improvement agreement. So what this was a result of an issue that honestly people were having everywhere as far as electric equipment, specifically transformers, were taking long lead times. Basically everyone wanted them and manufacturers couldn't keep up. So people started ordering them and they wouldn't be delivered for, close to 2 years for some of these larger transformers. So knowing that and knowing that we didn't have any time, we essentially came into an agreement with Greco de Rosa where they would front about $5.6 million so that the city would basically mitigate our risk. We didn't want to order this material and then potentially not use them because the project was not secure at that time. So they fronted those funds, and then the city ordered the electric equipment, and then it was a lot of heartburn, honestly, for 18 months to 24 months of when that electric equipment was going to come in. Another fun fact with that was that there was some items that we ordered, and we were not really given a good direction on when they would get here, but also the price. The price was determined when it was delivered, not when you ordered it. And then in February 2023, the city adopted the Pheasant Run TIF and formalized that. Just some general facts about the project itself. It sits on 84 acres, 4 buildings, 1.1 million square feet, 500 to 1,500 jobs. I think I can say that we'll pretty easily clear the 500. I'm not sure if we'll get to the 1,500. That would be great. It's certainly possible, but we'll probably land somewhere in the middle. In total, this is $136 million total investment. And I'll have a little bit more on this, but the estimated annual property taxes, when everything is fully assessed, would be $1.7 million. And you have a little site plan on the right there. I really just put this up here for reference. Not that we can read it from here, but that would be the project budget. The only thing that I wanted to point out here was the electric equipment that we did order. We are close to that number, but we are not quite there yet. So there is still some wiggle room in that budget of the 5.6. Of course, they still have some development to do. So we'll see where we end up as far as if they use that 5.6 or not. The terms of the agreement, so I would call this a TIF rebate. So essentially, the developer or the property owner, they will pay their property taxes. That will go to the city, and a lot of it, in this case especially, will go into the TIF, and then we will be rebating that back to them. So this would be considered pay-as-you-go. We have done other deals here in St. Charles in the past where the city issued a bond, and then we paid ourselves back via the TIF. This is the reverse. This is the developer pays for it up front, and then they get reimbursed for the TIF. The maximum rebate amount would be $10.925 million. And just to note, that is under the 11.5 that they originally had seeked. The rebate schedule, and if you don't follow me on this, my next slide will maybe clarify it a little bit, but it does start out with a 50-50 split where the city, essentially what goes into the TIF from this development gets split 50-50 until the city recoups $720,000. The reason for that is because we did do some work out there for ourselves just because it was easier for us to do ourselves. So that money we do want to recoup sooner rather than later, and this was for a water main and then some electric work on Couch. Once the city gets that 720, then it will flip to a 90-10 split with the majority going back to the developer. The incentive rationale, kind of already explained this, but of course it's with the electric infrastructure that was put in place and the expensive cost that it took to get power just to that site. They did submit their pro forma and outline kind of their rate of return. So I would say for an industrial project like this, a reasonable rate of return is between 8 and 12%, depending on the market. Without our assistant, it would be below that at 7.85. With our assistance, it would be 9.4. Financial impacts to the city. I would expect that the the developer would be repaid the 1.9 in approximately 9 years. Of course, that's a projection. On the right-hand side there, you do see the chart of how this would work out. The first 2 years, I'm estimating it would be 50-50. That's when the city would recoup that 720. After that, it would flip to 90-10, and you can see the dollars there. They'll be rebated, starting at 1.1 million every year, and then it will ramp up as there's more EAD on the property. The city will be getting, starting at about 148,000, of course, getting more and more from the development. Then when the developer is paid off in year 9, then all of the increment would then go back to the city, and at that point, it would be getting about $2 million a year in revenue. There are some additional costs that the city have already incurred and potentially could incur in the future. Those are TIF eligible, so when we do our work out there, specifically labor, that is something that we can pay ourselves back in the future too. And I believe this is my last slide, just some miscellaneous items. I kind of already mentioned this, but there was no bonds issued for this project by the city, which is maybe the first time that we've ever done this for a TIF for a project this size. We actually don't have any current active TIF RDAs, so we have not done a deal or we don't have any agreements out there that we're doing something similar with. This would be the only one. And then one small item that will actually be coming forward to City Council, hopefully in April. There is a small piece of property that the developer would like to acquire. This is technically in West Chicago, but it makes more sense since it goes kind of with our project here to annex it into the city, but it does require coordination with West Chicago and the airport. The project can occur without this piece, but having this piece does increase site access, which I think everyone would want. So that is something that's being worked on and hopefully is presented in April or May. And I believe that is my presentation.
All right. Question committee. Weber.
Derek, I know you're not an electrical engineer or the director of the electrical department, but one of my questions would be, all the investment that was made with all the electrical upgrades and the equipment, is that going to handle everything that Building A might need, as well as the undeveloped resort property as well?
No, that equipment, and honestly, I don't know if there'll be some spin-off benefit, but no, this is specifically for the industrial project.
Gotcha. So with the building that's not developed yet, it'll handle
yes, it will handle Building A.
As well, right?
Yeah. Assuming that we don't get some type of crazy use in there that requires a ton of electricity, which would be good, but would also come with challenges. It should supply the entire site.
Okay, thank you.
Charles.
You mentioned the annexation. I'm glad you did, because in the agreement in this subsection Q, it mentions that the developer shall, prior to substantial completion, annex that property. So I'm not a lawyer, but what if, like West Chicago, what if there are issues? Does that tie their hands? It says they shall. I mean, if we sign this and agree to this, I mean, that sounds like they're committed. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but do they have to do it for this to be fully executed?
I think it would be the city's intent to honor the spirit of the agreement. All four of those
regardless
can be constructed and operate without that access. And based off of our conversations, we're confident that it will.
Derek, can we flip to Nick? Do you have any worries about the validity of this contract pending that?
No, it's a good question. The reason we put that section in there is because that's based on the plan you see up there now, that it had that access going out through that West Chicago parcel. We do know after going through staff that this project and Building A can be built without it. We kept it mandatory, obviously, but it's in our control then to decide what happens after that. We did ask the question that you'd asked, what happens if it all falls apart with West Chicago? And we're comfortable we can still accommodate that project and what they need to do.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Two questions. With all the utilities we're putting in, transformers, who owns that? Do we own it or do they own it?
Those would be public facilities, right, Peter? Yes.
So we will own it, so we will have to maintain it if we got to replace the transformer, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And on the annexation, who will pay for the annexation?
I think the cost would be bared by the developer, I'm assuming, yes?
I can answer that. The way we've got it set up in the application, the applicant, which is the party in the RDA, is responsible for the cost of the application. Doing the drawings,
Okay,
You know,
I'm saying all the, whatever you gotta do to do.
I don't know
it,
what
right?
well, there's a fee that
Right, you gotta
covers what
pay.
I do, right?
Right, you
Yeah.
gotta pay for everything,
Yeah.
okay.
But
they
there's a lot
pay
of
for it.
coordination they're also doing in West Chicago, which is all on them.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? So with that, I'm looking for a motion, and let me read into the record, because I think, like we did on the last two, we went through 2 points in one discussion. So this is 4F, recommendation to approve redevelopment agreement with GSI, Pheasant Run Industrial Development Project. I've got a motion.
Second.
Okay, motion from Folks and a second from Munns. Please call the roll.
Lockhart.
Yes.
Munns.
Yes.
Gem.
Yes.
Petrola.
Yes.
Wirball.
Yes.
Gessner.
Yes.
Weber.
Yes.
Kulturitis.
Yes.
Folks.
Yes.
That passes. Thank you very much. That's everything in item 4. So we move on to item 5, public comment. Is there any public comment tonight? Seeing none. Additional items from staff? Anybody on the dais? Mayor? Nothing. There's no executive session. So with that, I think I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion?
Moved by Munns, second by Bongard. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks, Ed.
Thank you,
We're
Ed.
adjourned.
Thank